We have to jump a bit in time. Being in the presence means sometimes not to rush, but make the best out of each moment. You know all the term kairos, so let's catch this kairos. Before we enter the panel, I want to give over the microphone to my partner and co-founder, and it's actually one thing I have to say. It's very rare that the three of us building a triangle, Irene, Alexandra and me, we share one room. We are the three co-founders of the World Human Forum, and it's a great pleasure that we are in physical and time presence together here. Thank you so much. Alexandra, you will introduce Vassilis Lambrinoudakis, he's the biggest expert, I think, for the topic we are going into about healing. In the ancient Greece. You will introduce him, so please. And we are all very curious to hear from you, and he will speak in Greek, but we can listen. Can I stay on the stage, or, yeah? Yeah, I need translating, because my Greek is not yet so strong. Please welcome again Mr. Lambrinoudakis.
It's a real pleasure and a real honor to have with us Professor Lambrinoudakis, Professor Emeritus of Classical Archaeology, University of Athens. He has been the teacher of many of the most important Greek archaeologists, and he's probably the man who knows more about what healing in ancient times in ancient Greece meant. And I have to remind you, and I'm sure Jochen will do the same thing later, that this panel is actually a teaser for next year's theme of our conference. Because next year, the whole conference will be about science, art, and the spirit of healing. We had with us 2 years ago, and again, you will find the book on our book table, Ivy Ross and Susan McSalmon from Google and from Johns Hopkins University, who have set up in the US what has become the biggest network of neuroaesthetics, they call it. It's a blueprint that brings together all the data that is known today about how art in all its form can heal us. It can heal us because we produce it. It can heal us because we receive it. It can heal us whether it's literature or music or poetry or even the beauty of nature. All that they are trying to put together now in the United States of America. But we have something to offer to that conversation. And that is the knowledge of the ancient times. That is the knowledge that I'm very, very happy to hear from Mr. Lambrinoudakis just a little bit today and much more next year. Ευχαριστώ πολύ που είστε μαζί μας, κύριε καθηγητά. Θα ήθελα να σας ρωτήσω πρώτα απ' όλα, εν συντομία, τι ήταν τα Ασκληπία και πώς η τέχνη χρησιμεύε για τη θεραπεία.
Τα Ασκληπία ήταν όλα αυτά που συζητούμε σήμερα και ακόμη περισσότερα. Ήταν οι τόποι στους οποίους λατρευόταν ο Θεός της υγείας της αρχαιότητας, ο θεραπευτής Ασκληπιός. Σε αυτά τα ιερά η προσέγγιση της υγείας και της θεραπείας ήταν ολιστική. Δηλαδή οι άνθρωποι οι οποίοι υπήρχαν εκεί προσπαθούσαν πρώτα να θεραπεύσουν την ψυχή και μετά να προχωρήσουν στη θεραπεία του σώματος. Βεβαίως, στην πραγματικότητα, οι ιερείς, οι οποίοι αποκαλούνταν στην αρχαιότητα βοηθοί του Θεού, ήταν εκείνοι οι οποίοι, έχοντας αποκτήσει ιατρική γνώση, πραγματοποιούσαν θεραπείες πρακτικές και ακόμη και επεμβατικές θεραπείες, δηλαδή εγχειρήσεις και τα σχετικά. Τα σημαντικότερα ασκληπία ήταν αυτό της Επιδαύρου, της Κο, του νησιού Κο και της Περγάμου στη ρωμαϊκή κυρίως εποχή. Στα ιερά αυτά, όπως είπα, η προσπάθεια ήταν να θεραπευτεί πρώτα, να απαλληλθεί πρώτα η ψυχή και για τον σκοπό αυτό χρησιμοποιούσαν ιδιαίτερα τις τέχνες. Βασική τέχνη ήταν η μουσική και ο χορός, ο οποίος ήταν το κύριο μέρος της λατρείας. Στην μουσική και το χορό είχαμε τους πεάνες. Οι πεάνες ήταν ένα τραγούδι δοξαστικό για την θεραπευτική ικανότητα του Θεού, αλλά συγχρόνως ήταν και ένα παρακλητικό τραγούδι για να έχει ο ασθενής ή οι άνθρωποι οι οποίοι το τραγουδούσαν και το χόρευαν την εύνοια του Θεού για τη θεραπεία τους. Οι κινήσεις οι οποίες γίνονται, ή μάλλον ο ρυθμός της μουσικής και οι κινήσεις οι οποίες γίνονταν κατά την όρχηση εξέφραζαν αφενός το παρακλητικό αίσθημα των ανθρώπων για την σωτηρία τους και συγχρόνως ή αφετέρου μπορούσαν να εκφράζουν την ευχαριστία τους στο Θεό για αυτό το οποίο τους συνέβη, δηλαδή για την θεραπεία. Είναι πολύ χαρακτηριστικό για την αξία της θεραπείας της ψυχής πρώτα, αυτό που γνωρίζουμε στο ιερό του Ασκληπιού, στον Λεβίνα της Κρήτης. Εκεί, μπροστά από το άβατο, το εγκυμητήριο δηλαδή, εκεί που γινόταν η θεραπευτική ενέργεια του Θεού, μπροστά από αυτό έχουμε την ορχήστρα. Δηλαδή, εκεί ακριβώς προετοιμαζόταν ψυχικά ο ασθενής ώστε να μπει μέσα στο εγκυμητήριο και να δει τη θεραπεία του. Και εκεί βέβαια η θεραπεία γινόταν με αυθυποβολή. Ο ασθενής έπρεπε πρώτα να θυσιάσει, στην συνέχεια να νηστέψει 3 μέρες και κατόπιν να μπει στο άβατο ώστε να κοιμηθεί. Έχουμε την έμεση πληροφορία ότι χρησιμοποιείται το όπιο για να βοηθήσει σε αυτό, από παραστάσεις οι οποίες υπάρχουν στα φατνώματα της Θόλου και στην είσοδο του ιερού. Επομένως, πέραν από αυτό υπήρχε η αυθυποβολή με το διάβασμα διαφόρων θαυμάτων τα οποία υπήρχαν μέσα ήταν γραμμένες σε στήλες μέσα στο άβατο, όπου φαινόταν ότι ο Θεός μπορεί να θεραπεύσει και αυτό έκανε τους ίδιους να έχουν ελπίδα ότι και αυτοί θα έχουν την ίδια τύχη.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Κρατάμε σίγουρα νομίζω αυτή την ολιστική προσέγγιση, η οποία πιστεύω ότι θα πρέπει ξανά σιγά σιγά να ξαναμπεί και στη σύγχρονη ιατρική. Θα ήθελα να σας ρωτήσω τι ρόλο έπαιζε η αρχιτεκτονική για τα ασκληπία.
Δημιουργούσε το κατάλληλο περιβάλλον για όλα αυτά που είπα προηγουμένως. Θα πω ένα πολύ ωραίο παράδειγμα με το ασκληπείο στη Ρώμη. Η Ρώμη, όπως ξέρετε, είχε ένα πολύ ωραίο ασκληπείο στο νησάκι του Τίβερη, στην Ίζολα την Περίνα. Οι Ρωμαίοι το τρίτο π.Χ. αιώνα υπέστησαν ένα μεγάλο λοιμό. Πήγαν λοιπόν στην Επίδαυρο για να ζητήσουν τη βοήθεια του Θεού. Ο Θεός με τη μορφή φιδιού μπήκε πάνω στο πλοίο τους, αυτοί τον πήραν μαζί, πήγαν στο νησάκι του, ανέπλευσαν τον Τίβερη, πήγαν στο νησάκι και εκεί το φίδι γλίστρισε και πήγε στο νησί για να θεμελιώσει το ιερό. Τι κάναν λοιπόν οι Ρωμαίοι? Το νησί το μεταμόρφωσαν αρχιτεκτονικά σε πλοίο. Και στην πρόωρα του πλοίου, σώζεται ακόμη σήμερα, στην πρόωρα του πλοίου υπάρχει το φίδι. υπάρχει καλύτερη υπόμνηση σίγουρη και συνεχής για την παρουσία του Θεού και την θεραπευτική του δύναμη και την δυνατότητα, μάλλον την ετοιμότητά του να θεραπεύσει.
Ευχαριστώ. Μια ερώτηση πολύ σημαντική για μας, γιατί έχετε καταλάβει πόσο σημαντικό είναι η οικολογική διάσταση στην προσπάθειά μας. Πώς ήταν συνδεδεμένα τα Ασκληπία με τη φύση, το νερό, τα δέντρα, το τοπίο?
Τα Ασκληπία ιδρύονταν πάντα σε περιοχή η οποία είχε νερό και είχε καλό κλίμα. Το νερό, αγαπητοί κύριοι και κυρίες, είναι το βασικό στοιχείο της ζωής μας. Χωρίς φαγητό μπορούμε να αντέξουμε πολλές μέρες, χωρίς νερό καθόλου. Έχει και μια δεύτερη ιδιότητα, ότι καθαρίζει, που και αυτό είναι πολύ χαρακτηριστικό για την υγεία. Επομένως, τα Ασκληπία διέθεταν πάντα νερό, πηγές, φρέατα, δεξαμενές και επίσης λουτρά, στα οποία μπορούσαν να πιούν, θεωρώντας ότι είναι ιερό αυτό το νερό, και επίσης να λουστούν οι ασθενείς. Γιατί και το λουτρό ήταν μέρος της αρχαίας θεραπείας.
Αλλά και τα δέντρα νομίζω είχαν σημασία.
Τα δέντρα έπαιζαν επίσης πολύ σημαντικό ρόλο. Γνωρίζουμε ότι στην Επίδαυρο ήταν ελιές. Όλα τα ιερά ήταν άλση. Όλα τα ιερά ήταν άλση. Στην Επίδαυρο και στην Αθήνα είχαμε ελιές και μάλιστα στην Επίδαυρο λατρευόταν η θέση της ελιάς.
Το λέω, ξέρετε, για τα δέντρα, γιατί και στη σύγχρονη έρευνα αυτό αποδεικνύεται πάρα πολύ πόσο σημασία έχει το πράσινο και σε κάθε του μορφή, και είναι κάτι το οποίο όλο και περισσότερο το γνωρίζουμε και πρέπει να το καταλάβουμε.
Μα είναι το βασικό αυτό που μας δίνει η γη. Και επίσης στην ΚΟ είχαμε τα κυπαρίσια, τα οποία είναι πολύ χαρακτηριστικό για την κάθοδο στη γη και τον σπόρο ο οποίος φέρνει την αναγέννηση.
Μία τελευταία ερώτηση. Τι μαθήματα μπορούν να μας προσφέρουν σήμερα τα Ασκληπία? Νομίζω τα είπατε ήδη, αλλά αν θέλατε να ακουμπήσετε σε κάτι πιο συγκεκριμένα, τι θα λέγατε?
Πρώτα απ' όλα η ολιστική προσέγγιση της υγείας. Και σήμερα η ιατρική προχωρεί προς αυτή την κατεύθυνση, αλλά πιστεύω ότι έχουμε ακόμη πολλά να μάθουμε ως προς αυτό. Το δεύτερο είναι το ανθρωποκεντρικό στοιχείο της αρχαίας λατρείας και θεραπείας. Υπήρχε κοινωνική δικαιοσύνη. Δηλαδή, άνδρες και γυναίκες, το είπατε ήδη προηγουμένως σε άλλο πλαίσιο, δούλοι και ελεύθεροι, κυρίως πλούσιοι και άποροι, είχαν ακριβώς την ίδια δυνατότητα προσέγγισης στη θεραπεία. Είναι πολύ χαρακτηριστικό ότι ο μύθος λέει ότι ο Ασκληπιός κεραυνώθηκε από το Δία, δηλαδή τιμωρήθηκε γιατί προσπάθησε να πάρει χρυσό για τις υπηρεσίες του.
Μάλιστα. Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ και ετοιμαζόμαστε για του χρόνου με τη δικιά σας βοήθεια να συνεχίσει αυτή η συζήτηση, να την εμβαθύνουμε και να συνεχίσουμε να μπορούμε να συνδέουμε τις γνώσεις του χτες, που όπως ξέρετε στο World Human Forum αποκαλούμε συχνά the other AI, the ancestral intelligence, με τη σύγχρονη γνώση και τη σύγχρονη τεχνολογία και τις σύγχρονες επιστήμες. Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Ευχαριστώ και εγώ.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrinoudakis. Thank you so much. We will pick up from what you said, and I will now invite all the beautiful panelists, Apostolia Papadamaki, Nikos. Please join us, Yatromanolakis and Nikos Tsouchlos. And we have one guest, she's online. Is Rarita Zbranca with us? Can she hear us? Okay. So, no time to waste. I would like to have this panel really active and interactive, and also with examples, stories that you have. Exactly. I will start with you, Apostolia. Maybe it will be helpful if all three of you, and also Rarita, will say something when you have experienced healing in the arts personally or on other people. Please go ahead, Apostolia. What was your experience?
Thank you, everybody. I just need to start by telling you...
You need a microphone, I give you one.
I need to start by telling you,
Thank you, Nicholas.
that I didn't know what Mr. Lambrinoudakis was going to talk about. So, art can awaken remembrance of the soul's quests, ignite our innate empathy, and reconnect us with our shared heritage and with one another. Art can restore our senses of awe for nature and create mystical experiences that bridge the ancient and the modern. This panel is about arts and healing, and I'm very, very honored to share with you my journey as an artist that led me from the indoor theatrical spaces into dreams, into the sea, and finally into the sanctuaries of Greece in search of healing, remembrance, and re-enchantment. It was around 2013, that's already 13 years ago, when I was already an established choreographer and director, and I had a powerful insight. I noticed that the audience spent their work days sitting on a chair, and then they came to the theater to sit again, watching my work passively. I felt I had to offer them something more, an embodied mystical experience through art. So I looked back to the ancient sanctuaries of Asclepios, the god of healing, where people would purify themselves, fast, and then sleep to receive healing dreams. Inspired by this, I began transforming the theater stages into sanctuaries of sleep and dreams. So the audience would join in guided rituals of movement and song, then lie down and sleep overnight on stage with music tuned to theta wave frequencies. And the whole night long, I read their dreams through the night. For many people, this became a profound healing experience. Let's see video number 1 from 2013.
Ήταν κοντά σε νερό, σε κάποια ακτή, σε όχθη κάποιας λίμνης. Δεν ξέρω. Εγώ ήμουν ψηλά, πολύ ψηλά, σαν σε βουνό, πλάι σε έναν γκρεμό που έβλεπε στην όχθη αυτή. Και βούτυξα. Στο κενό. Πετούσα, σαν να έκανα αεροκτέρηση. Προσγειώθηκα στα πόδια του και τα αγκάλιασα. Με κοίταξε, ήταν σοβαρός, σαν θλιμμένος. Μου είπε μη στεναχωριέσαι. Τα διαβάζω αυτά που γράφεις. Έχουν περάσει πολλά χρόνια. Είναι λίγα τα όνειρα που θυμάμαι. Αυτό δεν το ξέχασα.
So these people that you saw, it's audience, they're not dancers or actors. But still, I was indoors and I longed to bring this closer to nature because we are nature. And as we come back to that, we find balance and homeostasis that we have lost. Dreams are linked to the element of water, Idor, the element of the subconscious. So after 2 years of preparation with precious colleagues, we created something never done before, an underwater performance beneath the temple of Poseidon, god of the sea, including disabled dancers and children, creating a novel art experience in an unexplored territory for the performing arts. This was back in 2015. So we built an underwater stage with underwater speakers and invited 3 types of audience. Some of the people even learned scuba diving to watch this performance, other watched by snorkeling on the surface or from a screen on land. And of course, including the artistic team and the audience, many said that that was a once-in-a-lifetime experience and changed completely their consciousness. So let's see video number 2. The sound.
Can make it down, please?
Sound. Thank you. But the underwater performance was not the end in this journey. Having entered the water world, the great womb of the mother, the sea, I dreamt of creating a vigil night performance, Olonichtia, at the temple of Apollo Epicurus. There on a mountain 1,300 meters high, the audience gathered outdoors. Together we saluted the cardinal directions, we connected with the 4 elements through movement and music composed with Pythagorean principles. And then, just as in many ancient Greek rites, the audience had the opportunity to dance, to sleep and dream outdoors in the embrace of the temple under the open sky, as we read their dreams out through the night. I don't have time to talk to you about that experience. This was the first time I incorporated in a performance the rhythms of nature and the elements with the rising full moon in an ancient site. And from that experience, what was born was anamnesis. Anamnesis is a Platonic term that means remembrance. The idea that humans, us, carry innate knowledge accessible through the combination of word, song, and dance, what Mr. Lambrinoudakis described before. The ancient Greeks call it orchesis. You know the words orchestration, orchestra. So the historian Lukianos reminds us that there is no ceremony without orchesis. There's no ceremony without dance, song, and music. Since then, I have been creating participatory, site-specific performances in archaeological sites, developing the anamnesis methodology. The audience does not sit. They walk, they participate in rituals, they become part of a collective ceremony, always timed, beginning with sunset, ending with the rising of the full moon. Professional artists collaborate with the local communities, children, villagers, elders, so each performance becomes not only art, but also legacy and community building. Let's see the video number 3. So this was some experts from 7 different performances in 7 different archaeological sites of Greece. All the anamnesis performances have been realized with the support of the Greek Ministry of Culture and public and private bodies. It takes a lot of work, and always in cooperation with the local efforts of antiquities. And we are very open to more supporters because we want to realize performances, special anamnesis performances in more archaeological sites of Greece. Along this journey, I realized that it's not only about arts for healing. It's about arts empowering individuals and communities to heal themselves. Through art, we can become human beings who claim peace, freedom, wholeness, and connection with nature and with all living beings. Communities that are not misled or traumatized, but communities that can flourish like the Minoan civilization, which prospered in peace for more than 1,000 years. Anamnesis envisions art, life, and nature as one. As we nurture nature, we nurture ourselves, and we nurture the world.
Thank you, Apostolia.
I was on time? I can.
Yeah, there was a very beautiful journey that you shared with us, and before we move on with Nicholas, I want to say one thing that I refer strongly is your connection with the moon. Later we're going to see Human Requiem in Eleusis, the film and the performance we did in full moon, and I have realized that looking back, all our ancestors saw the same moon that we are seeing. We spoke about presence, Gina, but we are in presence. When we watch the moon, we don't think about it, that it was always the same moon that was always there before we were alive. Our ancestors saw actually the same moon we are watching. And those who follow us, once we are, well, somewhere, when we are gone, they will see this moon. So this is the connection. Wherever we are on the planet Earth, we always see the same moon. So I think that is some kind of an anchor point that makes so much sense in sacred rituals about connectivity. That's something I want to refer. But now we move on to Nicholas Yatromanolakis, who actually, you have been Deputy Minister for Culture and Sports, and as far as I was told, it was extremely new in Greece that you somehow, I mean, referring to Asclepius, but you were really moving forward in that spirit to make clear that arts and culture have not only a meaning for themselves, but in a deeper sense have this healing capacity. So when in your time, when you had the political power, what could you achieve to change that? And how did you experience yourself the art of healing? And actually, did you support Apostolia's work in your time as Deputy Minister? Yeah. So please, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Jochen, and thank you, Alexandra, for having me here. It's really good to be back in Eleusis, in Eleusina. So my story is not as magical and ethereal as the story that Apostolia shared. So welcome to, the world of government, public administration, and bureaucracy. And that was my job. And I actually was fortunate enough to be appointed initially Secretary General for Contemporary Culture, the first one. It was the first time that position was created in the summer of 2019. 6 months into the job, COVID happens. So actually, I'm responsible for, what is happening in contemporary art for the state institutions, but also like the ecosystem. So 6 months into the job, I have to shut everything down because
The opposite of healing,
Yes.
somehow.
So in the beginning of the COVID period, the only thing I was working on was this. I was having medical discussions with a committee of 30 doctors about the saliva that comes out, the trajectory of the saliva that comes out of a trumpet, and if it's safe to be in an auditorium or like to actually watch like a play or be in a concert. And we started even realizing, like wondering, okay, so maybe art is actually bad for your health, like you can die from it. Parenthesis, actually, there's no medical evidence that anything happened from the arts during COVID, but that's a different story. So that was, in the beginning, we thought that this is it. You know, this is a story with COVID. But then, after a while, we realized this will take a while. And you could see things like that. So COVID had an impact both on mental health, but also on the cultural sector. It affected it around the world in many different ways. And if I have to put it in like, you know, basic terms, in terms of culture, it exposed the vulnerability of the sector of the artists. So we did things like creating a registry so that we could support artists, but also funding left culture to go to health care, which is understood. But also we realized, at least I felt that culture should not only be about production, it should also be about consumption, something we never talk about in Greece, and that it should not be just for the few, but for the many, and make it an intrinsic part of everyday life. And at the same time, the healthcare system was suffering, was under increased pressure. We know, we have a lot of studies that indicate that there are mental health issues because of COVID. And even if you don't care about that, you don't care about mental health. If you're just like a pure, like cynical, you know, person that only cares about the economy, okay, think about this. 12 billion days are lost due to depression and anxiety in work days. $1 trillion lost, yet only 2% spent on mental health. So this was what we're facing. But there were some good news. The first was this, and this is why I made it, European Commission doesn't make it like this sexy. AI did it with disclose, and because this was actually the first good thing that happened. The RRF. The RRF, it was a program that was designed by the EU, through which funding was given to EU countries to actually restore their economies and sectors of the economy and kind of like also make them more resilient. So it's like, and then the Greek government told us in every ministry, okay, think about stuff you can do that are going to make your sector more resilient. So it's like, I started developing certain things, and then I came across the Holy Grail, which is this. It was this report by the WHO. Again, it was blue, it was not gold, but I want to make a point here. So what is this? This was a study of studies. What that means is that it was a collection reviewing every study that was done until that point on how health actually affects positively mental health care. Why is this important? Because as a policymaker, you have to provide evidence, data, ideally from a well-respected organization, upon which you can base a policy design and a strategy. It's what Alexander was saying before, how you go from vision to action. You need these instruments. So this was actually the key upon which we based our entire approach and strategy. So we had the money, theoretically, we could apply for money from the EU, and we had that report as our starting point. And this got us started thinking. So the idea was, yes, of course we knew, and there were interesting and exciting programs in Greece and elsewhere where art was used as a means, a therapeutic means for well-being. But from that to an integrated nationwide mental health care program that connects the healthcare system to the arts and to cultural institutions was never done, at least in Greece, and actually it hasn't been the case nationwide in any country. So that was the ambitious goal that we set. So this is how a new institution was born, Cultural Prescription. We got approval from the European, and funding, most importantly, from the European Commission, a bit over 10 million euros, to create this nationwide program through which cultural institutions can provide prescribed mental health care services and actually get money. And that that was something that I was very, very adamant that this is going to create a new revenue stream for cultural institutions. And so it's an integrated, regulated, evaluated, and transformative program. What I mean by that, I'll give you here a few examples. So the National Theatre did theater, and this is from the pilot stage. We had opera, we had dance, obviously, we had visual arts, and these are different state institutions that have done these things. We're now at the second pilot stage. It is a long journey, and it's a complicated one, and it should be one. Why? Because you have to make sure that everything is done the way it should. We're talking about health here, so protocols have to be followed, research has to be done, training has to take place, both for cultural practitioners and for healthcare professionals. And then you have 3 pilot stages during which you have 3 types of assessment: from the beneficiaries, from the medical professionals, from the cultural professionals. You get all of these results, and then you assess them, and then you make all the tweaks and the adaptations that you need, and then you implement, and then you expand nationwide, which is the goal, because the goal is not to just do it wherever a museum is nearby or a concert hall is nearby, but can you do this really as a nationwide program, and then you operate it. And it's a long journey. Again, I also didn't know what Professor Lambrinoudakis would talk about, but it's a long journey to make a full circle. To what? To this, the Asclepion. Because now, to do this and back it scientifically, get funding for it, from a national government or from an institution like the European Union, to have proof that actually this works, and to engage different types of professionals from the cultural world and the healthcare world, and also from other universes like the investors or the technology world that all speak different languages, is kind of like of a challenge. But we made it work. As I said, this is now on the second pilot stage. There is another one. Hopefully it's going to be completed by the mid-2026. And then the next step is actually to literally link the national healthcare system with cultural institutions as officially healthcare providers, which means that doctors can actually prescribe to people to visit a museum or follow a program that they do, or a concert hall, and prescribe it, and they will get a little message on their cell phone, and they can go for free and go through that training, and at the same time, this institution would actually get compensated for these healthcare services that provides. That's all.
Thank you. That's amazing. Exceptional. I have to say, before we move on the panel with Nikos, little presentation. You answered already my question, because but I want to deepen it for a moment, because I think that what you're doing, in a European perspective, would you say, because I understood that you work, like the World Human Forum is a lot about breaking down the silos, not getting stuck in one system, but combining things. This is exactly what you did, right? You were talking also to the Ministry of Health, and with health assurances, I think that is what counts. And is that something from your perspective that Greece is in an innovative position compared with other European countries, or have you been exchanging with colleagues in other European countries or even worldwide?
Unfortunately,
is that a movement?
Yeah.
Did you start a movement?
I don't know, but unfortunately we didn't have people to talk to. Also, we didn't have like a CEO to come and apply for this to us and say, you should do this. It's kind of something that we did organically. As you said very rightly, the first thing we did was I reached out to the Ministry of Health, and I said to my colleague there, "Are you interested?" She said, in 1 second, she said, "Yes, I'm in." I was floored. I was very happy. And then, of course, all of this is supervised medically. Actually, it's supervised by Professor Stefanis at the University of Athens in a Unitio hospital, and a big team. So yes, breaking silos, I think, is the way to the future for policy making. This is, I think, a good example of how this can be done, but I honestly believe that this can be applied elsewhere.
It will also help in times of big cuts that we're going to face in the future, also in the arts worldwide, that to defend the arts as something that has a meaning.
Exactly.
And in the end, in return, any investment on the arts will have an economical effect, right?
We know that the arts have an intrinsic value, but I had to prove, and I had to speak the language of policy. So I had to prove the value of that. And to be honest, the reason I started this was to actually secure more funding for cultural institutions.
Thank you. Before we move on, I want to refer, thank you so much, to Apostolia's approach, getting the audience as close, as immersive as possible. Did you make, are there reports and researches about the difference of, and that's maybe also bridging to you, Nikos, of the experience of more immersive experience, or versa, a very classical audience seated, fixed, glued on their seats? Did you have reports on that? What Apostolia?
I have a very, very brief answer for this. The protocols that are developed actually determine who does what where. So depending on your condition and your needs, and depending on the offerings, and even depending on your gender, your age, then, you know, professionals will determine what you should follow so that it has the maximum impact.
We will come back to your approach, Apostolia. Thank you so much. Thank you. Big applause for Nicolas. And now I have the great honor to announce also, Nikos Tsouchlos. I was one of the audience experience when you did In C by Terry Riley for the opening of the Stavros Niarchos Cultural Center. That's the first time when we met. And I think you will have something prepared to share with us. In your work, being the president of the Athens Conservatory and being a musician yourself and a professor for music, what is your experience about the healing of the arts, and how would you refer also what the other two speakers said before?
Well, for one, thank you for the invitation. There's one thing I want to testify here, is the interest and the success of this program Nicola Yatromanolakis was talking about. We are part of the second phase now in the Conservatoire, and the first thing I have to say is that this is a challenge for a traditional institution, because as a conservatoire, we know what we have to do. We have to teach dance and you know, music and theater. But here, the challenge was to think, what can we offer in this perspective of cultural prescription? So you see there is a program like that. It sounds interesting. You sit down and think. And it's interesting, we arrived at a sort of text description which we had to deliver, but we did it seriously, not just to formulate, you know, in bureaucratic jargon something just to get the money rolling, but just thinking, seriously thinking, what we can really offer to these people. So our program concerns the School of Dance, and the whole point was receiving a number of people who are referred to us by healthcare professionals, and we decided to involve them not just passively to show them a performance, but to make workshops, dance workshops, where, of course, it will not...
With non-professional dancers as well?
Non-professional dancers. Well, everybody is a non-professional dancer.
Exactly.
The so-called patients, I don't like the term patient, the beneficiaries, work with dancers and choreographers belonging to our team. So it's maybe interesting that I read to you what we set as a goal, inspired from this program. So to offer the participants a chance to redefine their relationship with their own bodies as a medium of joy and creation, to discover and explore in an experiential way symbols, feelings, and sensations, while bypassing the usual descriptive discourse, to enter the magical world of movement and its infinite possibilities, where the soul can find its own hidden ways of bodily expression beyond dual judgments such as good and bad or right and wrong. So what strikes me today, after having heard all of this afternoon's presentation, is how many words that have been pronounced very often today are in this text without our prior having our prior, talking to each other. Which brings me to, I would love to present some results of this workshop. They have just started. We are very new in this.
Maybe next year we can watch it.
Maybe next year we will definitely come with some results. What I can report is the enthusiasm and, let's say, the numbers of people that have expressed their interest to come and participate in these workshops.
Can I ask a quick question? How many people?
It's about 30 people separated in smaller groups. It's people who are being referred to us for problems of a depressive nature. And I'm very, very curious to see the results and see the outcomes which we will try and formulate, putting our artists together with the healthcare professionals. Which brings me to a little bit more general reflection about why is it that art can be helpful. I mean, we all suspect it is, and our each one's personal experience can maybe confirm it. But why is it? And there is one word which was heard quite often this afternoon here, which I personally find very crucial in order to understand the way any form of art, music, poetry, dance, anything, can have this sort of healing effect. And this word is empathy. So empathy is a Greek word. Actually, it's a word coming back to Greek. Embathia in contemporary Greek means something rather negative. It's,
what does it mean, just for the non-Greeks?
What bad politicians do when instead of argumenting, they just insult you.
Like Donald Trump is the best example.
Yeah, I can think of many examples, yes,
yeah.
Fortunately.
He's not the only one.
Empathy is somebody who is not logical and who is negative.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that empathy, it was a translation of the Einfühlung, the German Einfühlung, which was a basic concept in German aesthetics of the 19th century. So Einfühlung, or empathy, came into English language through the arts, through aesthetic motivations. And this I find very interesting, because today empathy is a term very broadly used also in psychology or in social sciences and so on. But the beginning is in the arts. And what empathy tells us is that there is this tendency to, for an artist, for a practicing artist, to invest human meaning in gestures, in a piece of wood, in a piece of marble, and so on. And it's probably, for me at least as an artist, is the key which any artist uses in order to encode these human meanings into his raw material.
Thank you so much, Nikos. I think especially the arts, the ephemeral arts, time-based arts like dance and music, they have the impact. I mean, a visual artist makes a sculpture or a painting. There's very hard to receive empathy and even connection. If we watch the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, of course, we can feel something, but she cannot feel it, right? And Leonardo is passed away a long time ago. Living composers or passed away composers who composed music, and they bring the musicians, the interpreters make it live again, the dancers performing for us, with us, the participatory momentum, I think that is what matters here very much. And maybe you remember last year Rishikesh Pawar, the Indian choreographer, was here. He received an incredible award. Applause for Nikos, of course, yes. Sorry. And now we move on to Rarita. Have you been listening? No, to finish that sentence. Rishikesh Pawar received an award recently for his work as a choreographer with Parkinson patients. He's really about not to cure completely a Parkinson patient, but he's helping that the suffering becomes less. And that's a big, big step already. So, Rarita Zbranca in Romania, have you been following and listening to us? Don't feel please excluded, because the beauty is that we all live in the same planet Earth and live in the same time. So you are with us even physically or not here. We feel that you are with us. What do you want to tell us about your own experience at the Cluj Cultural Center? And did I pronounce it correct? I don't know. I'm not speaking Romanian. Cluj Cultural Center?
That's fine. I think we can all understand each other in our own accented English. I'm really happy to join you this evening, and I'm really grateful to have heard this opportunity to finally have a first-hand account of the experience of the cultural prescription program in Greece. I've always been very curious about it. Yes, and just to add to the last idea, I think to what research shows, the same report, the same World Health Organization report that has been mentioned before, brings this information about the multimodality of arts that make them the artistic experience be so meaningful in terms of health and well-being, is because at the same time when we dance, when we sing, for instance, our body is engaged, actually our entire humanness is being engaged emotionally, cognitive, at the sensorial level, physiologically. So, you know, like when you sing, your body posture is changed, the way you breathe is changed. When you dance, there's so many things happening. And then there's also the social dimension when the singing or is happening in a group or the dance is happening in a group. So I think that's part of the secret of this kind of potion that culture experience brings, because I think there's very few other types of human activities that can offer us such a complex experience. Now about my experience in Romania, I would I just want to share with you. Also, to answer the first question, how did I start to connect to this topic? It was almost 10 years ago when my father died that I was starting to listen to Peter Gabriel's song "I Grieve," because I felt it offers solace and a sense of hope in the way in which the song is built, not only in the lyrics but also in the music. And then very, very soon after, I found this article in The Guardian where Alain de Botton, in an interview with Peter Gabriel, he finds out that Peter Gabriel writes his songs thinking of them as an emotional toolbox supposed to help people through different life challenges. And then kind of this, synapses connected in my head, and I had this aha moment, obviously. And of course, as you have been talking already, and being in Greece in such an important site, it's obvious that the link between arts and health is not new. It has been traditionally, historically, it has been always there. But somehow, I don't know what we are doing so wrong in the contemporary society, that everything is so fragmented, that we became so ill, so isolated, so estranged. And just to add a number to this, it's only 2.8% of the budgets of the of health across Europe that is being spent on preventive care. So most of the money of ministries of culture are going actually to cure the already existing diseases. So ever since then, I started working with my colleagues at the Cluj Cultural Center on exploring in different ways this relation between culture, health, well-being. And what we do usually is that we try different interventions. We co-design them with beneficiaries and with experts. We do research, just as you do with piloting culture prescriptions in Greece. So we measure before and after the different indicators around people's well-being. And we're also doing a lot of training and advocacy work and research. And these are some images from a project that we've done together with the World Health Organization, a group singing initiative for young mothers with postpartum depression. And there were results after 10 weeks of just meeting once a week for 1 hour and singing together, that the depression scores have decreased, and the well-being and social perceived social support of these mothers has increased. We have done a similar initiative during the pandemic related to burnout. And again, even though we had to do this type of interactive activities while people had to not get closer than 1.5 meters to each other, still we had very good results after 7 weeks of having 1.5 hours of art activities. People with initially high burnout scores had lower burnout scores and also increased well-being. And 1.5 years after that, they were still using art as a way to prevent getting very much to deal with their stress. And currently we are working with artists in schools in Cluj to see how we could integrate arts in the way school life happens, so that there's more hope, identity, meaning, empowerment for the kids. So increased well-being in school. And these are just some examples of the work that we do. I've been contributing to a report that has been following up to the one that has been mentioned from the World Health Organization. And what you see there is just sort of a map of the different type of benefits that we found out that engagement with the arts has, not only for health, but also for how people perceive their satisfaction with life, but also in relation to social well-being, how they perceive that the life in their community and their interaction is happening. And there's more and more now momentum being gained at the European level. And if, for instance, for the past 12 months, ministers, representatives of the ministries of culture and health from all member states have been working together. And just next week on Monday at Mondia Cult in Barcelona, there will be a launch of this report that has been produced at the European level that will have recommendations for all the member state countries on how to integrate culture and health at the level of policies. So I would hope that means that more programs like the one that you have been piloting already in Greece would be happening in all member states. And yes, the WHO report has been mentioned, but a more recent work for a resolution of the World Health Organization as of this year is recommending to ministers of culture across the world to strengthen the link between health and culture as a way to promote social inclusion and well-being. But just a report that EuroHealthNet has published today shows that actually, despite the fact that there's a lot of progress in terms of how health is being handled, there's no progress in the last decade on how social and health inequalities have been tackled. So and there's a direct link between being marginalized economically and socially and health states. And I think this is where actually the potential, the inclusive and cohesive potential of culture is very promising. And towards my last words, I think what we are facing today is a key moment, is a is a moment where we are shifting a paradigm in which we are living. So we realize nowadays that this very fragmented and compartmentalized approach is not working anymore. We need to see again humans, for instance, not just as patients, but as integral humans with all their needs. In order for real healing to happen. And research now is already showing that art engagement can be seen as a health behavior. And what that means, it means like just as sports now, physical movement or nutrition are seen as key activities for your health. Now we can talk about art engagement in the same way. Again, closing the circle is not something new. 2000 years ago, they have been aware of that, and they've been making use of that. I think it's time for us now to learn how to engage with the arts in a more integrated way, so that in the end we can see that investment in culture is investment in health, and it is investment in thriving communities. And just as my final slide is that this week, this coming week, we are also launching in one of the European projects that we are coordinating from the Cluj Cultural Center, a European-wide campaign to raise awareness on this fact that art is a health behavior. And this is just one of the messages on our campaign: more museums, more connection, more art, more well-being. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Rarita. I hope you were hearing all the applause from the auditorium here. And I want to have a very quick feedback. I mean, you were speaking about in the evaluation, it's needed, but you said something very interesting. 2.8% is only spent in prevention, and all the rest is spent in medical care, in medicine, whatever, which means that we might have here a problem, a systemic problem. And the disruptive element, maybe the industry, the health industry, is not really interested that this grows, because that's their business model. And how can we overcome that? I mean, this is, unfortunately, we have on the panel an artist, we have a politician, we have education, and we are missing somebody who comes from the entrepreneurship side, who makes money with drugs, you know, with medication. Is he or she willing to get into that? That's the big question. We can also research next year, maybe, but we have the whole topic of Symposium next year. Being the moderator of this panel, I have to say now that actually in the original timetable, we would, since 10 minutes, be already in our dinner break, being ready at 9 o'clock for the screening of Human Requiem in Eleusis. How much time do we have left to overtime? Okay, well, I mean, this is very radical now. I mean, 5 minutes. Let's make the best out of 5. Alexandra, no discussion, 5 minutes. Because everybody presented something, and I think we should have the chance for the panelists here and also for Rarita to quickly refer to what you have heard. Maybe really from each of you, a very last remark. Let's do that. Because if not, it's only about sending out signals and not a chance to refer to each other. Maybe we start again with Apostolia.
Okay, so I feel that creating art experiences outside in nature, in sacred places, with the audience coming from everywhere, all ages, locals, internationals, brings back a remembrance of the sacred that we all need very much today, to remember and embody the sacredness of life, the sacredness of nature, the sacredness of the cosmos, and that we are just passing through. Thank you.
Thank you, Apostolia. I think that's sometimes less is more. I mean, was really important what you said. Who else of you, Nicolas or Nikos? Who wants to be next?
Actually, what I was thinking was, and I was thinking also that beforehand, is that, you know, I can't take off the policymaker from inside of me, but referring back to
Good.
to
We need people like you in this job.
well, I'm not, but anyway. So referring back to the psychedelics panel, I mean, we saw that the conversation was going back again and again to, okay, how can you make it happen? How can the EU or national governments actually do something about it? How to activate it? And I think that, you know, there is a process. We need, like, policymakers need to have an open mind. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't, but you also need data, you need evidence, and you need some kind of, you know, a path that you can design it on your own, or you can bring allies to help you co-design it. And I think this is quite important for the psychedelics future, but also like for programs like cultural prescription. Like, for example, had we known, like what Cluj is doing, Rarita is doing, like had we known other things that were going on across Europe at the same time, or that we're facing the same struggles, it would have been maybe a different conversation.
To be continued also. Rarita, next year we'll be here, right? We need you to be here next year. What's your feeling about it?
Yeah, I promised.
Yeah. You want to
Yeah,
say
I
a
would
conclusion
love to be there.
word before we move to Nikos and close it?
I think my word is that the power really is in being together, and I think that has been a word that I heard several times this evening. There's experience, there's so rich experience in each of our professions, but we need to be together to make things change.
Thank you so much. So Nikos, you.
A very, very short remark. I have the impression that what has been said today, including the psychedelic discussion, seems to be aiming at the same goal, that we all have a common understanding of what healing means in this context. And maybe the only difference is that the psychedelic colleagues, I would dare say, they are working with chemical means on the human hardware, and the artists are working on the human software. And
that's a very nice one. I mean,